After my stroke, my family talked to me like I wasn't there. My son said, "We need to move fast before she starts remembering." I wasn't as far gone as they thought. I pressed record and waited for the right time. I had a stroke in January 2023. I'm 61. I live alone in a small 2-bedroom in Richmond, Virginia, near the Henrico line. I was cleaning the bathroom when my right arm just stopped working. I tried to yell, but the words came out jumbled. I remember gripping the sink, staring at my face in the mirror. My mouth looked crooked. I collapsed on the floor and blacked out. My son, Derek, found me 2 days later. He hadn't heard from me and decided to swing by. He still had a key. I was conscious when he came in. Couldn't move, couldn't speak. I remember the panic in his voice when he said, "Mom." "Jesus, Mom." Then he called 911. The doctor said I was lucky. Moderate stroke, they called it. Not fatal. But it messed up the speech part of my brain. Aphasia. My words came out wrong. Sometimes I'd mean to say coffee, and I'd say window. I knew what I wanted to say, but it got stuck. I could understand everything, though. That part was clear from the start. People didn't get that. They heard me stammer and assumed I was brain dead. They moved me to a rehab center about 30 minutes away in Mechanicsville. Ugly place. Low ceilings, chemical smell, linoleum everywhere. The nurses were overworked. The food was bland. But I kept my mouth shut and focused on recovery. Derek and his wife, Claire, started visiting more. At first, I thought they were finally stepping up. That maybe this stroke brought out some decency in them. I was wrong. It was about 3 weeks in when I overheard it. I was in my wheelchair near the window, facing away from them. Derek thought I was asleep. I wasn't. I just couldn't speak well enough yet to tell him to shut his mouth. "We need to move fast before she starts remembering," he said. That sentence will live in my head forever. Claire said, "Does she even remember what's in the accounts? I thought she took you off after that fight." She did. But there's still paperwork I can push through if she signs a few things. POA, refinance on the house, whatever. They were talking about my house. My savings. My life. Like I was already dead. Claire said, "If she's not going home, we could get it listed next month." Exactly, Derek said. She doesn't know what's going on. But I did. I knew everything. I was terrified. Angry. But most of all, I was awake. And I had time. Hours alone in that room. Days of silence and frustration. I used that time to work. Not just on my speech, but on my revenge. It took me 3 days to get my old iPhone working properly. The screen was cracked. I had to practice tapping and swiping with my left hand because my right was still weak. I couldn't talk much yet, but I could record. That's when the plan started. Every time they visited, I pressed record and left the phone in my lap or under the blanket. They never noticed. I got hours of them talking about me, about my money, about how they were going to sell everything I had worked for. I listened to it at night, crying in that horrible bed, with the scratchy sheets and the beeping monitors. They talked about forging my signature. About pushing me into a long-term care facility and filing for power of attorney on her behalf. I used to think my son was just selfish. I didn't know he was a thief too. Around week 6, I was stronger. I could speak in full, if slow, sentences. I could write. I could stand on my own. That's when I told Jennifer, the evening nurse who actually treated me like a person, that I needed help printing some emails. She brought her laptop on her break and helped me log in. I showed her the recordings. Her face went white. "You need a lawyer," she said. "I know," I whispered. She gave me a list of elder law attorneys. I picked one who specialized in power of attorney fraud and estate protection. I didn't tell Derek or Claire a thing. Let them think I was still drooling in my chair. I emailed the lawyer the files. He said, "You have more than enough. Let's talk about the next step." I wasn't ready yet. Not quite. Because I didn't just want to stop them. I wanted to watch them fall. After I sent the lawyer those recordings, we set up a plan. His name was Frank Merrill, a gray-haired, straight-talking attorney with decades of experience in elder fraud. He told me to sit tight, keep recording, and not sign a single thing, not even a birthday card, until we got everything in place. I started practicing my speech harder. Every morning at 6 a.m., I'd rehearse words, work with the speech therapist, and practice writing. I didn't tell the staff what was going on, except for Jennifer. She quietly helped me scan letters and emails Derek brought in. He was starting to pressure me. "Mom, the insurance stuff is getting messy," he said one day. "We need you to sign a few forms. Just routine." I shook my head. He looked surprised. "What?" "It's nothing serious," I said, slowly. "Give me time." He smiled, but I saw the twitch in his cheek. He was getting nervous. Claire stopped coming as much. She always looked uncomfortable around me now. I think she sensed something was off. That's when they made a move. I was scheduled for a discharge assessment in mid-March. I had improved faster than expected. I was walking with a cane. Talking, though still halting, but clear enough to be understood. The plan was to go home under supervised care. Then Derek showed up with a social worker I'd never met before. He had a whole file. "Mom, we've been talking," he said. "We don't think it's safe for you to go back home." I stared at him. "Home is safe. This is better for you," he said, gesturing to the social worker. "We're getting you placed in a long-term care facility." I asked, "Who decided?" "We did," he said. "And legally, we can." He'd filed for emergency guardianship, using paperwork I hadn't seen. The lawyer later explained that it looked like I was non-responsive during some evaluations. And someone had signed a document giving temporary control over my medical decisions. We suspect a forged signature. That night, I broke down. I cried harder than I ever have in my life. Not because I was afraid, but because I saw what they really were. They weren't just trying to rob me. They were trying to erase me. I called Frank the next morning. "We move now," I said. My words were slow. Slurred. But they were mine. He filed an emergency motion to block the guardianship and submitted the audio files, signed statements from Jennifer, and even therapy notes proving my mental clarity. Then I did something harder than all of that. I called my younger brother, Martin. We hadn't spoken much in years. He was a retired firefighter out in Charlottesville. I told him everything. He was stunned, angry, but he came. He picked me up and drove me to Frank's office himself. I was out of the rehab center by April. Derek didn't know yet. But I was coming home. And I wasn't alone anymore. I moved back into my house in Richmond with Martin's help. He stayed with me for the first few weeks, slept in the guest room, fixed the locks, added a camera doorbell, and changed all the passwords on my accounts. Frank had already frozen my financial assets to prevent any more activity. Still, I didn't expect the full damage until I saw the mail stacked by the door. I sat at the kitchen table, my kitchen. And Martin opened envelope after envelope. My utilities had been switched to another name, Claire's. My property tax had already been prepaid for the next 2 years, by Derek. And worst of all, my homeowner's insurance had been updated to a different mailing address entirely. One I didn't recognize. I looked it up. It was Claire's cousin's place. In North Carolina. I don't know what they were planning. A fake fire. A forged deed. Sell the house to a relative and claim I signed off. My name was still technically on the title, but Frank said they had tried twice to get a quitclaim deed filed. Both denied, but the attempts were there. That wasn't the twist, though. The twist came a week later, when I finally accessed my old desktop computer. Martin helped me recover deleted files. Turns out, Derek had used my house as his personal office while I was in rehab. He logged into everything, my tax returns, brokerage accounts, even my MyChart health portal. We found spreadsheets. He had been tracking balances, estimating how long I'd live, calculating how much he could pull before anyone would notice. I stared at one column header, liquidation timeline, Mom. He'd written that. My son. Like I was an old car. But that still wasn't the worst part. In one folder, buried deep, I found recordings, videos. He had been recording my therapy sessions through the window in the rehab center. I remembered now, seeing his phone out, thinking he was just checking email. He had filmed me at my lowest, drooling, slurring, unable to form words, and stored it all. He'd been building a narrative. A library of proof that I was mentally gone, incompetent. I don't know if he planned to use it in court or just for leverage, but he had it. Claire's voice was in some of them, too. Once the video's out, no judge will let her touch anything again. She looks like a vegetable. I almost threw the computer through the window. Martin was shaking. We have to go to the cops. Frank agreed. He submitted everything, recordings, emails, forged attempts, and now, video evidence. We pushed for fraud, attempted elder abuse, and financial exploitation charges. Then came the knock at the door. Derek. He looked shocked to see me standing. He even had the nerve to hug me. I didn't know you were out, Mom. I was gonna visit. I held up my hand. Don't lie. He looked at Martin, then at the door camera. I watched him realize he wasn't in control anymore. I had him right where I wanted him. And I hadn't even started yet. The last time I saw Derek before the court hearing, he stood on my front porch, still trying to play the good son. Mom, we've had some confusion. Claire and I were just trying to help. I didn't answer. I just stared at him. My right hand was still weak, but I held a file folder with every document his greed had left behind. I didn't need to speak. My lawyer would do that for me. The court date came 3 weeks later. It wasn't just a hearing. It was a reckoning. Frank brought the full package, audio files of Derek and Claire planning to liquidate my assets, documents showing attempts to change deed ownership and forge my name, bank activity showing attempted transfers, and the videos. The judge watched them in silence. I could see his expression harden. Then we showed the spreadsheet. The one titled, Liquidation Timeline, Mom. That one hit like a hammer. The judge stared at Derek. I've never seen a more calculated, disgusting attempt to rob someone while they were recovering from a medical emergency, he said. Derek didn't say a word. Claire sat 2 rows behind him, white as paper. The ruling was swift. Power of attorney. Revoked and sealed. Emergency guardianship. Denied, retroactively thrown out. Financial restrictions placed. Frank then filed a separate motion to press charges. That part didn't happen in civil court. The DA picked it up. 6 weeks later, Derek was arrested at his office. Fraud. Forgery. Elder exploitation. They found a fake signature attempt tied to a notary who turned state's evidence. Claire wasn't charged yet, but she was named in the investigation. Her cousin's address, the one tied to my stolen insurance policy, was under scrutiny for conspiracy. That was legal revenge. But that wasn't all. I sent copies of the court transcript and files to every one of Derek's clients. He's a financial planner. Or, he was. His license was suspended by the end of the month. His face, his firm name, and a short write-up of the charges ran in the Richmond Times-Dispatch. I didn't pay for it, the story was picked up because of the public interest. People who knew us, church folks, neighbors, old co-workers of mine, they reached out. Shocked. Angry. Some asked if it was a mistake. No, I told them. It's exactly what he did. The family is split now. Some try to stay neutral. I don't. I tell them plainly. He tried to bury me before I was dead. Claire left him in August. Moved out, took their 2 kids. I felt sorry for the boys. But not for her. She knew exactly what she was part of. She made her choices. And me. I'm still in my house. I walk a little slower. Talk a little clearer every day. I changed my will. Derek's name isn't just removed, it's replaced. I added a clause: if he ever contests the estate again, he gets nothing. Not even my ashes. People like to think betrayal is loud. Screaming matches, fights in the rain. But mine was quiet. It was whispered across hospital rooms. Signed in stolen ink. But revenge. Revenge was loud. Revenge was public. And I made damn sure it was permanent.